Hello. Yo, 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 yo. Yo, 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 yo. Let me get everything booted up here, everybody. Hang tight. Hang tight. How do I do this thing? How do I share this? Share this thing. Ba-ba-doo. There it is. Pow. Streamer. Pow. Oh, no. I need a new recording thing ready to go. Got water. Yeah, we're basically good to go. Hello. Cold and rainy in Los Angeles today. Hope we have that Blazers Kings game. Do we know if the Blazers got out of Portland at any point? I have no idea. No, wait, we don't want that. Hey, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish questions. Those of you that are here at the front end of the show, please do take a moment to like and subscribe. If anybody is watching after the fact, please like and subscribe to our YouTube page. I think there were only like 1 or 2 of you that did it yesterday. I got to do more. I need more. I'm getting greedy. I've had really nice growth here on the YouTube page this year, but I'm greedy because I've seen how fast things can change on Twitter. So now I'm just like, well, I want to get to all that. Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green got ruled out. That's happened already this morning. We got a pretty good schedule on tap for today here for the show. We're going to do a streaming demo, and we actually have a slate of games to crack into. Hey, also want to shout out our we have a baseball package now, folks. The Fantasy Pass, for those of you that have it, includes our first ever baseball draft guide. The great Joe Orico and his team of incredible baseball writers have already put together 11 articles. There are more coming. Positional ranks, dynasty ranks. Baseball is crazy because you got to go through all the prospects in every system. There's just so much you have to know years in advance. It's not like with the NBA where there's like, you watch, the incoming crop of collegians and wherever folks are playing these days, and then you have to understand like how a young player in the NBA can grow. Baseball, like you got to know what 18-year-olds are doing that aren't going to make the big leagues for 4.5 years. That is a hard, I think, fantasy sport to play. Other people think basketball is a hard fantasy sport to play. I don't know. We all have our things. But I'm going to be playing fantasy baseball with the same people I've been playing it with for 2 decades. And every year I say I'm going to pay attention from day 1 until game 162. And every day I fade. Last year I actually hung in there. I was like mid-pack. Typically after doing this intense basketball grind, I can't do baseball for more than like 5 or 6 weeks before I'm like, dude, I need a fantasy break. Last year I hung in there, and with the help of Joe Orico, and he didn't even have a team at that point. Now we've got a team here at Sports Ethos. I was able to, I think I got like 6th place. Frankly, I was satisfied with that. I did promise you guys I would do questions here at the front end of the show if anybody got them in before I started talking about fantasy stuff. So here we go. Delante, Dario Saric, Cam Reddish, Malik Monk, Malik Beasley. Who's the best stream for today out of these guys? This whole list makes me want to do this question in as Sean Connery. Dario Saric, Cam Reddish, Malik Beasley. Malik Monk is not a fun name to say as Sean Connery. I would say, well, we don't know because Portland, Sacramento, I still don't know if we know that game is happening. I would lean to Malik Monk if all of these games are happening. Although I guess was Jeremy Grant back? I think we found out that Nurk and Winslow are still without a timetable. Then we know Simons is out a bit longer. I don't know if we heard anything about Jeremy Grant yet. If Jeremy Grant is out, Reddish is probably your sort of like safe floor, but he just does so little besides score, which is also kind of the problem with Malik Beasley, although at least he hits a bunch of threes. I don't think Saric plays more than about 14, 15 minutes. I know he did a bunch of stuff in those 14, 15 minutes, but I would probably look at Monk because likelihood of minutes played is kind of what you're hunting for there, and then he's a little safer. Beasley, you better hope he's hot, because if he's not, then Lonnie Walker's going to play those minutes. Lakers are not going to be married to Beasley out for a long stretch. Mitrov was dropped in a 10-teamer. What's up, Brandon? Yeah, I would add him over Matisse Thybulle. I would. Mitrov was top 60 before he got hurt. I know a lot of that, again, I said this yesterday, is sort of cooked into field goal percent and blocks and rebounds, but I don't really care how a guy gets to top 60. You got to be pretty good in a couple categories to hit that level. Is Derek White Linsanity run over? Yeah, Boston's healthy again. So, yes, the Linsanity run for Derek White is most likely over. What's up, Fluffy? I don't think I've seen you in the chat before. Fluffy? Joe, I'm going to try to pronounce everybody's name in the chat room. You guys can have a good laugh at me. You can also correct me if you want. Joe Wachter. So I'm going with this one. Points league. Who to keep? Zach Collins, DeAndre Hunter, or Kelly Olynyk? I like Olynyk over Collins over Hunter. In that order. Jared Stewart, not a hard name to pronounce. What should I do with Jalen Duren and James Wiseman's situation? I have both. No, I don't think they can both be value in 12-teamers. I would still hold Duren over Wiseman. We saw Duren tweaked his ankle in that game where Wiseman got 23 minutes. If Jalen Duren is healthy, he probably gets more like 28 to 32 minutes. Wiseman more like 18 to 20 range. Rest of season, Toby or Mike Conley. Points league. This is a really tough one, Andrew D. See how I'm pronouncing all the names? Another real tough one. This is a damn near impossible question because neither one of these guys is a terrific points league option. They sort of get their stuff done in different ways. I would lean to Mike Conley. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. I just have slightly lean to Tobias Harris because I feel like the points are going to be a little bit more consistent on that side. But obviously the whole Tyrese Maxey being bench gunner has really hurt Tobias Harris's role here lately. But I do think he takes this by a nose. Kyung Lee says, hit that like button. Yeah, I agree, Kyung. Hit that like button and then also subscribe. Malcolm Brogdon. Amor. Derek White. I know that's or, but either way, Brogdon love Derek White. Mi amor. Where, I mean, it's Brogdon. It's Brogdon by a little bit. His 9-cat wise, they might have similar ranks. I think I just prefer Brogdon because of consistency. Taylor Horton Tucker worth a look. Yeah, absolutely, because Colin Sexton's still out. I know Utah signed a couple of scrap heap guards to pick up a few of those minutes, but THT is going to be at first crack at him here, at least right out of the break. Fantasy baseball redraft roto leagues are the way to go. Yeah, I mean, that's what our league is. It's roto redraft, but I still get overwhelmed by mid-May. But I trust in Joe and team. Those guys are good, man. And I work here, so I can just go into WordPress via the back door and read all of their stuff. But you guys got to go get a subscription to the Fantasy Pass. It's $5.99 a month. There's actually no, I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to. You know how during NBA season we have a 6-month lock on our Fantasy Pass so that you can't just get it for 1 month, get all of our insane NBA stuff, and then cancel? We actually don't have that for baseball. So you could legitimately get a Fantasy Pass today and then, I guess February being shorter, like 4 weeks from today, cancel your Fantasy Pass, only pay for 1 month and pretty much get the entire baseball draft guide minus like the last week of stuff. It's also available a la carte for $9.99 if you wanted to make sure you got everything from day one till day end on fantasy baseball time. That's over at sportsethos.com. You click on the premium tab and choose get premium. Go get our baseball thing. We're excited about this. Kelly Olynyk, Kevin Love, or, oh my God, Roberto. You cannot put the name Williams in there. Jalen, Mark, other Jalen, Kenrich. There's like 7 of them in the NBA. Sorry, dude. If you clarify this one, I might come back to it later. Can DSJ hold some low-end value? Yeah, I think he can, actually. I do wonder what's going to go on with Kelly Oubre, but low-end value, I think he could get to. Mid-end value, someone else needs to be out. Rozier, Ball, whatever. But, they got rid of McDaniels. They got rid of Plumlee, although that doesn't change things all that much. But Plumlee was running a bunch of stuff out of the high post. So there are more assists to go around. It's not a zero impact thing that Plumlee's gone for the guards on that team. Can you rank who to pick up between Shaden Sharp, Matisse Thybulle, Cam Reddish? I would go Thybulle over Sharp over Reddish. I just don't like Reddish's 9-cat game. Who would you stash for the fantasy playoffs? Kevin Porter Jr., Russell Westbrook, or Steven Adams? Pick two. Well, then it's Kevin Porter and, those other two guys are strict punt dudes. Kevin Porter's not great at the percentages, but he's not a full-blown punt guy in either of them. He's just sort of kind of bad in both. Westbrook is a much worse version of that. And then Steven Adams is maybe the worst free throw shooter in the NBA. So do I have to? If you're punting free throws, it's Porter Jr. and Adams. If you're punting both percentages, it's Kevin Porter and Westbrook. And if you're punting field goal, it's Kevin Porter and Westbrook. So it really has to do with what you're doing on the percentages side. If you're not punting either of them, it's just Kevin Porter. I don't want Westbrook or Steven Adams anywhere near my actual 9-cat team. And now we'll start the real show. Everybody sit tight. When you hear the music fade out, you know the show's coming. We are back, baby! Games are back! Oh, the All-Star break was so painfully long. Ah, man, it's good to have games back again. Thank goodness. Woof. I wrote it in the description of today's show, but the All-Star break feels longer when your fantasy teams are winning or when your reality team, whatever team you might root for. You guys know I'm a Lakers fan, although a very pragmatic one when it comes to fantasy sports. When your reality team is interesting, the Lakers are nothing if not interesting these days. They made all these moves. I think everybody, fantasy enthusiasts, Laker fans, whatever, we're all sort of curious to find out what they are. And then on the fantasy side, I'm not going to throw it up on the screen here on the YouTube side of this thing, but I've got this one team that's just been making a steady march up the standings for, good Lord, I don't know how long, but that team was in 9th or 10th place at the turn of the year, and now it's in 2nd place. And it feels like only a matter of time before I chase down that first place team. So the All-Star break that joint felt interminable. But we're back. We got a good old-fashioned chunky Thursday to welcome us back from the break. We've got a long streaming demo episode coming up today. Ah, the joys. Man, we made it, guys. We didn't have that many. Okay, so I shouldn't complain too much because, Monday's show was sort of like a gimme episode of Today in Sport, or what the hell is this show called? Fantasy NBA Today. Called Today in Sports Betting. That was the first podcast I ever did. Today in Sports Betting, 2009 to 2011 with pregame.com. It was the first ever handicapping podcast on the internet. It's a crazy thing to think because that was only 14 years ago. That was the first. There were shows that were just touts yelling at people about what to buy. There wasn't a show out there that existed in 2009 where analysts handicapped the games live on the show. And we did that. That's kind of what I've tried to do here with Fantasy NBA Today, is kind of show you guys how to handicap the fantasy side. Because ultimately, I really do want you all to be able to do it yourself. It's a terrible business model because at the end of all of this, that means that you could just stop listening to the podcast if you wanted to. Go about your daily life. Go do something else. Okay, Dan taught us how to do it. We're good now. But I am hoping that you'll stick with it regardless. But in any event, welcome to the show, everybody. It's Fantasy NBA Today. You guys know that. I mentioned it, even if I called it the wrong name first. I am your host, Dan Bespris. Exciting, I know. Same old Dan. The Iron Man streak lives on. I am promising you all that during this offseason, the Iron Man streak will end somewhere. I don't know what it's going to be. Someone else will do a guest episode of the show, or there just won't be a show on a holiday. Something innocuous. But I got to break the streak because it's actually kind of physically hurting me now. Doing the show on Monday, 15 minutes or not, physically hurt me. Because we had just been driving for 6 hours, landed back at the home front, didn't even have a chance to go to the bathroom after getting in. It's just all right, put the kids on a cartoon. Dan's got to do a 15-minute podcast about the All-Star game that nobody cares about anymore. Not today, though. Today's an easy one. For those listening on the recorded side, please do join us on YouTube here in the not-too-distant future. There are many thousands of you that listen every day on the recorded side, and there is but a fraction of that hangs out with us on YouTube. So I know a number of you could do it. We try to go live a little bit after 9 o'clock Pacific time most days, which I realize isn't super convenient if you are, a working stiff when you kind of just need to listen to the show whenever you can. But if you want to try to plan around it, that is the way to do so. That link, of course, is youtube.com/sportsethos. I am available at Dan Bespris on Twitter, and sportsethos.com is the website where it all takes place. Warning you right now that mid-show, I am going to ram some baseball content down your throats because this is actually a huge week for us at Sports Ethos as we introduce the third, not final, but third of the big sports draft guides. It's our first ever baseball draft guide. I can't wait to tell you guys about that mid-show. For now, let's do the following. I think most of you are here for the Thursday night preview. So let's start with that, and then we'll loop back around to the streaming demo, which simply might not apply for some of you. If you're in a Roto league, you don't really need to be able to long stream. It's a long streaming demo. It's not just a streaming demo. If you're in Roto, you don't need a long stream. If you're in Roto, if you're low on games played, you just simply add and drop guys like crazy. It's easy fix. And if you're up on games played, you have to bench your, 8th through 13th or 14th best players. You just play your top 7 or something like that. It's a pretty easy fix. Head to head, though, we are approaching the playoffs. Many of you know the Dan Bespris long streaming method. But I think and some of you don't, new listeners don't. There are definitely new listeners out there. But even for those of you that do know the Dan Bespris long streaming method, I think it would behoove us all to do a little bit of a redux on that. So let's go ahead and dive on in to the Thursday preview, which I realize now for folks watching on the YouTube side, I have effectively shared the wrong screen. So I'll fix that while we're starting to talk about it. First of all, it's a pretty large Thursday card here, so keep that in mind. This is not your typical Thursday edition. We have a 9-gamer with the clubs welcome things back from the All-Star break. So typically on Thursdays, it ran up against the NFL. It's going to be, now that football's over, the NBA can kind of adjust the way that they do things. They try not to run up against the powerhouses as often as humanly possible. Most weeks, you'll still have a relatively low Thursday count. They want to highlight the big games on TNT. That's kind of like the big weekly promo. But look, Boston is at Indiana. There are almost no fantasy angles for this ball game. The Celtics are largely healthy. It sounds like they've got all of their guys back. Indiana, they didn't really have anybody of consequence out going into the All-Star break. Miles Turner got a rest day in there, but I think he was back even in their last ball game. So provided the Pacers don't have any large shifts in philosophy coming out of the break, everything should basically be exactly the same. Pacers, by the way, are 26-34. They're 2.5 games out of the final play-in spot. They've been falling apart at the seams. The Raptors have actually been playing a tiny bit better. And if that continues, then maybe, I mean, we talked about it on, I think we discussed it on Friday's show of last week. Teams that could at some point embrace losses. The problem, of course, is that the Pacers have been too good to fully tank. So then if they're just going to lose some ball games down the stretch, it's just to like maybe adjust their pick from like, 9th up to 8th or something like that. Could that make a big difference? Yeah, I mean, every team, there's a value in trying to move up the board a little bit, and they'll have some odds to grab a top 3 selection, but I don't think you're going to be I don't know. Anyway, you guys get the picture. Let's keep moving on this one. I don't want to spend too much time on a team where nothing's changing for at least the next couple of weeks. Detroit at Orlando. I think a lot of folks have this worry on James Wiseman coming in and messing up Jalen Duren. And I don't really. Wiseman is going to have to really earn those minutes. And in the game we saw before the break, Duren tweaked an ankle. I mean, that's the most important thing you can take away from that. He was trying to play through it. This is a tanking team, so there's sort of no reason for him to. But now he's had a full week to get that thing recovered. I would expect Duren to log 28 minutes most ball games going forward, with the exception of, look, he's still a rookie. So there's still going to be games where he's bad. Or things are just going poorly in foul trouble, whatever of that nature. So, yeah, I mean, on some of those days, maybe there will be a little bit of a shift. But for the most part, I'm sticking with Duren. He's the future out there. They're just kicking the tires on Wiseman to see if any of it makes sense. I am a little bit curious about the Pistons signing RJ Hampton off the scrap heap. They don't really have a ton of guards that are like the future right now, besides, I would argue, Jaden Ivey, yes. Killian Hayes, maybe. And then Cade is obviously out for the year. But otherwise, it's like, all right, well, not that Hampton is going to hit 12-teamers for 9 category leagues. He doesn't have a category league game, but I would keep one eye on RJ for points leagues because he does tend to kind of pile up counting stats if they give him a chance to do so. But you don't have to get out in front of that. There's nothing to do there. What does Isaiah Stewart do? The fact that Sadiq Bey is gone probably helps a lot of these guys. It's just, a chunk of extra shots floating around. I think there may be something that comes out of Detroit here in the next 7 to 10 days. Let's just keep a close eye on it. I don't think much is going to come out of Orlando. They're largely healthy. Cole Anthony missed a couple of games leading into the break. I think they're expecting to have him back here out of the All-Star break. And if so, what does that do to Jalen Suggs, who had shown a little bit of promise those handful of games? My guess is that Suggs goes back to not doing much of anything. I think you see Cole Anthony kind of retake his spot, which was fairly effective, like top 100 bench play. And then we'll also just keep tabs on Jonathan Isaac, who got up into that 13, 14-minute range, and perhaps we see him crawl up towards 15 or 16 by the end of this week. I don't know what we're thinking here. By like March 10th, maybe he's at 20 minutes, and then maybe you consider using him in a roto format, but, it's again, that's the long play. Jamal Murray is officially questionable for the Nuggets, but he's expected to play, so Nuggets back at full strength is a pretty easy handicap. Cavaliers, they didn't do anything leading up to the break, so I see no reason to make adjustments there. Memphis, it sounds like Steven Adams is getting close. I don't know if we have an official ruling on whether he's getting back in there or not, but there really isn't much to pay attention to as that team gets healthy. Philly, D'Anthony Melton is really the question mark there. His minutes were super low for a couple of ball games, bounced back into the 30s in the last one, and there wasn't anybody out for that game either. But the one thing that I do feel like we need to stress with Melton is while he did buy himself another week on fantasy teams with one better ball game, we talked about this last week too, going into the break. The fact that they now have Jalen McDaniels as an alternative kind of, I'm going to say, backup wing big man, where before they just slid everybody to a different spot and used Melton as the sixth man in pretty much all scenarios. Well, now Melton is starting. Maxey's the gunner off the bench. If Tyrese is hot, Melton just doesn't even get back into the ball game. Previously, if someone like Tucker or Embiid or Tobias was out, Melton could actually soak up some of those extra minutes. Now those can go to McDaniels. So the path for Melton just got a little bit tougher. Over the course of this entire season, he's still going to hit value. I just think this stretch run for him might be more like 90 to 130 range, as opposed to top 50 where he was cruising with a bunch of guys out, or even like top 75 where he was when nobody was out pre-McDaniels. So I do think that this gets a little tougher. New Orleans, nobody's back for them out of the break. So what we saw going into it is what we get coming out of it, which was some curiosity. Not morbid, actually. A reasonable and legitimate curiosity as to what Josh Richardson's role is going to be on this team, because he actually looked pretty good in those last two games prior to getting ejected against the Lakers. I suppose I should caveat that last statement. But he does have a fantasy-friendly game. I wouldn't write Richardson off completely, at least not until Zion comes back. Does he have a negative impact on Trey Murphy or Herb Jones? Possibly. It seems like those two guys are going to be in there mostly anyway, and perhaps like an Alvarado might suffer or someone else, but it could create more of a logjam. For now, I do still feel pretty comfortable playing Trey Murphy and Herb Jones as long as Zion remains out. But if we see some of that stuff pivot towards Richardson, or if all three of those guys just start kind of cannibalizing each other, we have to be ready to act on that. Gary Trent Jr. is expected to be back for the Raptors. OG Anunoby may be back for the Raptors as well. We might get to see what their actual plan is now with their old starting five back and the addition of Jakob Poeltl. This is actually a really big question mark. I know that a lot of leagues, the trade deadlines have passed. I'm in a couple where I pushed it into early March because I thought it'd be fun to have it super late. So if you're in a league where the trade deadline has not passed yet, get ready to maybe have some opportunities with the Raptors. Because does Poeltl start and Gary Trent Jr. comes off the bench? That would be my guess based on that team's need for a defensive presence and rebounding in their first unit. I think with all of those guys healthy, Precious Achiuwa goes back to being a scrap heaper. That feels like a pretty easy decision. And then you start to think, okay, well, what can Gary Trent be if he's coming off the bench? And that was actually kind of what woke him up earlier this season. So not super worried there. Probably doesn't keep rolling at a top 40 clip if he's shifted to a bench role. But I see no reason why he would fall outside the top 75 or 80 range. And then with Poeltl, like, this is a fantastic spot for him. But let's keep an eye on it. San Antonio, Trey Jones, still doubtful. I believe, oh God, they released a ton of injury news yesterday, and now it's gotten buried in this absurd pile of stuff. I can't remember. Half the team is doubtful and half the team is questionable. Sohan is questionable. Jones is doubtful. Romeo Langford, I think, is on their injury report. I believe he's out. Those are probably the most important ones. So Zach Collins is a go. If Trey Jones is still out, then you get the sort of points league options. And if Sohan doesn't play, then that opens things up a little bit more also. You get these points league options like Malachi Branham, like Devontae Graham. half that Spurs team is a points league team. Keldon Johnson will do more. He's actually been more points league-y this year also. Keldon. Just lost all the things that we liked about him. At least he's been running more like a top 90 guy since that god-awful shooting slump. But still, I mean, obviously we wanted more than that. So, and I will play by ear a little bit. If Sohan's back in there, he's also more of a points league leaning type of player. That's the Spurs, man. Trey Jones, when he plays, and Zach Collins are kind of the only category league guys that truly make sense outside of punt builds. I know, like, I get done with these pods and people are like, Dan, you can use these guys in a punt build. I'm like, yes, I understand that. When I say points league friendly, I mean inefficient. So if that's not a problem for you, fine, you can make that adjustment on the fly. But if I have to say that every single time, I'm going to lose my mind. The hell were we? Dallas favored by 14. Yeesh. That is a large spread. Kyrie and Luka game. We'll just be filing this into the Rolodex. What does Christian Wood get to do? Do guys start to come back? Maxi Kleber, by the way, still out, but getting closer. And we'll just kind of continue to feel this thing out. What does Josh Green do as the dust settles? The great leveling for some of these guys that haven't had 6 full weeks of basketball as a large minute guys. I don't think there's going to be a big add or drop going on out there, but I do think that there's something. Oh, call from preschool. Better take this one. Hello. Sorry, everybody. Kid's fine. Hit his head on something at preschool, but he's okay. So let's, I honestly don't remember what I was talking about. That's probably not great. So you guys are going to have to listen to me, listen to the last few seconds of what I was saying, and then we'll get back into it. Basketball as a, large minute guys. I don't think there's going to be a big add or drop going on out there, but I do think that there's something. Okay, well, that's where we were. Whatever the hell that means. Apologies for the weird segue there. I got a phone call from preschool right in the middle of the show, but everybody's fine. Let's move on. Oklahoma City at Utah. The Thunder, they're slowly working a couple of pieces back in, but I don't expect that to change anything. Utah is intriguing because Colin Sexton is still out for at least a couple more ball games. They're going to be, I think, pretty gentle with him as the Jazz likely pivot a bit more into kind of the fade department here. They're only 2 games under 500. So again, they can't tank. They're just not going to be as good. That's the kind of long and short of it. They're just not going to be as good of a team without Conley, without Vanderbilt, without Beasley, without Sexton right now. And, they'll still be okay because Markkanen's having a career year and Kelly Olynyk is fine. And Sexton, when he comes back, is okay. And, there are a couple of pieces, but they've been horrible without Conley the whole season. Remember when they went on that big losing streak earlier this year? It was when Mike was out for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever that was. So is there a concern that maybe things move in the wrong direction for the veterans out there? Yes, but not yet. And then in the very near term, Taylor Horton-Tucker should step into a pretty big role here. He had already had an upgrade in role, And now with Sexton out, he's sort of like the last point guard out there. They could still use Olynyk at kind of a point center. But I expect THT to have pretty good numbers while Sexton's out. Even though the Jazz did pick up a couple of guards off the scrap heap. So you might see Chris Dunn. I think they picked him up, squeeze in there for a few minutes. I don't think those guys get to fantasy value, and I certainly wouldn't worry about it once Sexton's back. But for now, you probably have a decent shot at THT. Warriors at Lakers. No Steph on the Golden State side. Andrew Wiggins, I think, is doubtful. I know he missed practice due to personal reasons again. I don't know if he's officially been ruled out for this ball game yet. I don't think it's officially official. They usually don't when it's still, a day or whatever out in advance. So the Lakers see this, I'm sure, as an opportunity, but they got to test out their new pieces. It worked great against the Pelicans. Jared Vanderbilt out there guarding the sort of focal point on the other team's offense, but the Warriors are a different beast than the Pels. Pels are, Ingram's more of a mid-range guy. McCollum's more of a mid-range guy. They have some dudes on the inside that could beat the Lakers up a little bit. Golden State is a little bit less that, like attacking big men. But the Warriors also have Draymond Green, who has historically slowed down Anthony Davis more than almost anybody else in the NBA throughout their respective careers. But, it's a chemistry thing for the Lakers. What is Jared Vanderbilt going to do? Is he guaranteed high 20s minutes against everybody, or was that something that was just because he was playing against Brandon Ingram? And now, if the Warriors don't have Wiggins today, then they don't really have a front court threat. Offensively, at least. That team will be all guard. Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, guys just going nuts around the perimeter. So then do the Lakers need Vanderbilt out there as much, who's a little bit of a liability on offense, but what he brought defensively, rebounding, that sort of stuff, counterweighted that against the Pels in a way that, frankly, I don't know if it will here against the Warriors. And the reason we're kind of getting into this Lakers deep dive is, do I want to pick up Jared Vanderbilt? And the answer is still kind of maybe. I haven't fully decided, frankly. I don't think the other guys are going to be worth a look. I mean, obviously, D'Angelo, LeBron, and AD are on teams, but to me, the fourth guy that you're thinking about at least is Vanderbilt. And then for the Warriors, if a bunch of guys are out, they're just sort of, you'll get more Kevon Looney because that's a guy they trust, and then you'll get more Dante DiVincenzo, who likely would slot into the starting lineup if Wiggins is out. But I don't know that I would venture much farther than that. And then you kind of just assume that you're going to get big games out of Poole and Klay, and whether they're efficient or not is a little bit of a coin flip. Portland still without a bunch of bodies. They're in trouble here because Simons is out a couple more weeks. His turned ankle was a bad one. Nurk, it doesn't sound like he's ready to go. Winslow's still not ready to go. So whatever handicapping we do with the Blazers, we have to kind of do with a grain of salt, because at some point you figure these guys will resurface for Portland. We just don't know when. Specifically, Winslow is the one that actually intrigues me the most, because with Simons, you'll see more guard stuff. You'll see more Cam Reddish because they're going to need somebody to take some of those shots. We already saw there was plenty of Matisse Thybulle. Does Jeremy Grant work his way back into the mix here? Is he ready to go off the concussion protocol? There's a lot. So with Portland, you're not really watching one or two things. You're kind of watching everything and just sort of getting a feel for who's playing where and how much and when. And then with the Kings, there's nothing. So that's your look ahead. And now I want to do a little demo of the long stream. That's the other part of this. But before I demo the long stream, I got to take a second to tell you guys, number one, if you're hanging out with us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're not, come hang out with us on YouTube and then like and subscribe. That's an easy decision. You shouldn't even have to think about it. But also, we are extremely, extremely proud to announce at Sports Ethos our first ever baseball draft guide. I want to see if maybe I can share. Can I share that window? Yeah, I can do that for the folks watching live. Our first ever baseball draft guide is available now. $9.99 is the a la carte price, or you can sign up for the Fantasy Pass, which is just $5.99 a month. There's no monthly lock on the Fantasy Pass here at baseball draft season. So you can get all the articles that are in there already, and then there's so much more coming here in the next 1 to 2 weeks that potentially you could get all of it for $5.99. That's crazy. You got to do it, don't you? I think you do. I think you do. Featuring the delightful stylings of Joe Orico and his unbelievably skilled team. And now the folks on YouTube are getting to see the landing page for our baseball draft guide. You can see all the stuff over there. You got overall ranks that are coming soon. Catcher ranks and shortstop ranks are out already. First, second, third, outfield, starting pitcher, reliever rankings. Those are coming soon. Bust candidates coming soon. You got sleepers past 200 that are in there already. Dynasty ranks, top 300. Top 100 dynasty prospects, dynasty upside, undervalued prospects, new faces in new places, upside plays, prospects from the minors primed for 2023 debuts, non-closing relievers, punt strategies. All of this stuff is coming in the baseball draft guide. Many of it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 things are in there already. And again, you can get this as part of the Fantasy Pass. If you have the Fantasy Pass for basketball, you get access to this already. And many of you do, because if you got the Fantasy Pass in early October, your 6 month isn't quite up yet. So you can just roll that right into baseball season. It's a beautiful thing. And if you don't have one right now and you are going to be playing some baseball, this is the spot to get it. sportsethos.com. Click on the premium tab up at the top of the board. Folks that are watching live can see me do it. And then over here, there's a button to hit Get Premium. Sign up today. You click on Fantasy Pass, and then bammo, takes you to the purchase page. There it is. You just scroll down. You can get the draft guide a la carte. You can scroll down farther. You can do the Fantasy Pass. Either one of those options gets you the baseball plan. Fantasy Pass also gets you into the Discord. You can use the question and answer stuff going on in there for basketball as well. So now we pivot back into our long stream demo, which I don't want to take too long with this because the actual plan here is to do more of this long streaming stuff as most people get into their playoff week. So this is just to get a feel for how this process works. Long streaming, for those uninitiated, is the process by which we create more streaming slots on your roster by not using multiple moves in each one of them each week. So, for instance, here, coming out of the All-Star break, you're looking for teams this week that have 3 games left. Just for those that are looking at what's on my screen right now, Cleveland is an example of a team that has 3 games left the rest of this week. They go today, they go tomorrow, they also go Sunday. They're not alone. Denver has 3 games. Warriors have 3 games. That might be it. Nope. Toronto has 3 games. Sacramento has 3 games. 3 games in 4 nights is nice, but it's not a full long stream. A full long stream, now obviously 75% of days being occupied by games is a pretty good ratio. A back-to-back is 100%. 3 games in 4 nights, 75%, and so on and so forth. You guys can do the math on that. 4 games in 6 nights is a little bit less exciting. 5 games in 7 nights is one of the best ones you can do because it covers you for a whole week. And then 6 games in 9 nights is also a little bit less exciting, but it does give you that opportunity to go a little bit deeper. So, do any of these teams then qualify for that metric? Okay, well, and by the way, to those that are listening on the recorded side, I've pulled up our premium streaming calendar that folks that have the Fantasy Pass, I just did a promo for. You guys have access to this entire thing via the Sports Ethos website, but you're getting to see a chunk of it here on today's podcast, and that's how we'll talk about it. Okay, well, if we're going to start today, you're looking for teams that go for a better stretch than 3 games in 4 nights. Well, look at that. Cleveland does not. They don't play Monday or Tuesday of next week, so they actually don't have their 4th game for a full week. So they're 4 games in 7 nights after going 3 games in 4. So that wouldn't really be a successful long stream. Denver is a little bit closer. They go 4 games in 6 nights. That's not terrible. But after that 6th day, you got to get rid of your Nuggets. The Warriors are actually a little bit more interesting. They are a 6 game in 9 night team, which we just talked about. If you were going to go that kind of long avenue, if you need to conserve moves, the Warriors are actually a potential place to do it. Is it the best schedule? No, because in the middle there, they have 2 games over what is effectively a 5-day span, and then they have 4 games and 4 nights on the front and back end. It's a back-to-back at the front and back end of it, and then in the middle, things do slow down a little bit. But it does give you that option if you want to just see them all the way through to the end of that 9-day spell. What about the other teams going 3 days? I missed Oklahoma City, by the way. OKC is your big winner. And some of you in the chat are probably yelling at me about this because I scrolled past it really quick. Oklahoma City has 5 games in 7 days starting today. At Utah, hosting Phoenix, off. Hosting Sacramento, off. Hosting Sacramento again. Hosting the Lakers. The Thunder are your optimal long stream starting today and taking you through Wednesday of next week. That's how you look at it. And then what you would do if you were going to continue along this path is, I don't know, let's say you picked up 2 Thunder. You don't have to, because maybe even a team in a good long streaming spot doesn't have multiple options. But like, let's say that Kenrich Williams is floating around on the waiver wire. Typically, he's not a guy you're playing in 9 cat. He hasn't been good enough. But 5 games in 7 nights out of Kenrich Williams is playable on the head-to-head side. So then you've got to look at March 2nd and grade out what you do from there. The Warriors have 3 games in 4 nights and 6 games, or 4 games in 6 nights starting on March 2nd. Clippers have 3 and 4 starting on March 2nd. Philly, actually, if you went earlier, they have a 5 and 7 starting on March 1st. So maybe not the best team to pull up on March 2nd, but one to keep in mind if you have a long stream that ends on Tuesday of next week, and so on and so forth. So you look at the players on your team, you look at the slots that you're working with, and you just try to plot it out so that you're never making a move for a streaming slot more often than every 4 days. And once again, the reason that you do this, and this may be the most important part of this discussion, is the reasons behind it, the methodology. The reasons are you want to maximize games through your playoffs, but you need to have moves available if someone gets hurt so that you can pivot off of your plan. And then in that case, someone that you had on your team as a streaming option might just become a guy that you have to hang on to a little bit longer. Maybe you had a situation where you picked up a Raptor, say this week, for 3 games in 4 nights to finish off the week. And your plan was to drop them on Monday and move on somewhere else. Because the Raptors only have 3 games next week, it's not the world's greatest scenario. But someone else on your team gets hurt, and you need to end up sitting on that Toronto Raptor. Well, could you hold on to them longer, and would it screw up your team in a huge way? And the answer is no. You could technically hold them because they go 4 games in 6 nights, and then they're sort of every other day starting at that point. So it's not the end of the world. It's not perfect, but having that flexibility where you didn't use all of your moves on Monday and Tuesday, you might have used 2 of them. Later in the week, you can either move on from those guys, or if somebody gets hurt, you have a move to turn a 0 on your roster into something. That's the absolute most important thing. You cannot take zeros during your postseason. So this long streaming, it allows you, if no one on your team gets hurt, which is, I mean, I don't know how you pulled off that miracle, but if in a magical universe, no one on your team gets hurt in a given 5 or 7 day stretch, you get to long stream a 3rd or even 4th slot on your team. If guys get hurt, you long stream 2 and you turn that 3rd or 4th slot, which was an injured player, into someone who is not. And if your opponent isn't doing that, you're going to clobber them in games played. And as sad as it is, in head-to-head, if you have a 1 or 2 games played edge over your opponent, it definitely doesn't guarantee anything. But if you have like a 6 to 8 games played edge over your opponent in a head-to-head week, you've probably got like a 90% chance of winning that week. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. Unless you lose both percentages, which is a possibility, you have a really good shot to win any counting category that you're gunning for. Because steals are so hard to find. You get 8 extra games, you're probably going to win steals. I don't know if your team is competitive in all of these categories, but if they're ones that you're gunning for, you're basically going to win them. And so we'll do this more as the playoffs actually approach. Again, we're going to do this a bit more like closer to maybe the weekend before March 6th. We'll take some time on that Friday, which would be the 3rd, next Friday, right? Week from tomorrow? Yes. Week from tomorrow, we will start to do a little bit more of the kind of long stream look ahead. And then these podcasts, all of these shows will become kind of a 2-parter. We'll be doing the nightly recap, as always, because we got to find out what guys are hot, who we got to pick up. But then our look ahead is going to be both a look at that night's games, but even more so, a look at basically like the next 3 to 7 days worth of games and what to do long streaming wise at each step along the way. It's going to be different for every team because every team needs different types of players. All right, guys, we got basketball again tonight. Let's enjoy it. I am Dan Vespers. Go get a baseball package at Sports Ethos. You'll be so happy you did. And it's such a big deal for us to continue to expand this thing if this baseball rollout is successful. And I know you guys will help me along that path. At Dan Vespers on Twitter, at Ethos Fantasy BK, or just at Sports Ethos, sportsethos.com. This is Fantasy NBA Today. Recorded listeners, come join us on YouTube next time. You can ask me some silly questions about cookies and underpants and life or whatever. But if not, tomorrow, I think Brew's back with us tomorrow. We'll kind of see how his body's doing. And I know his kid's been sick too. Hello, preschool life. But hopefully we'll get Brew back on the show tomorrow. If not, you'll have to listen to me yell at you again. Either way, we'll talk to you then. All right, YouTubers, we got to move a little bit quick today because I have play-by-play tonight, so I got to get out of here in the early afternoon. I don't have all the way until 5 o'clock to finish my workday. Let's see here. Doop. What do we got? We left off at this one. I'm going to close the long streaming window now. I thought about bringing up the player rank page, but oh no, we did that one. Sorry, we did that one. Adrian Cruz. I forgot to continue to read the names. Is Kelly Oubre worth a stash for 12-team head-to-head? Yeah, probably. I think he does play. It was a hand injury, so his conditioning isn't going to be all that bad. There'll be a little ramp up, but it won't be severe. So yes, and he profiles as a very intriguing tank commander, frankly. Oops, forgot I got to click the next question. There's nobody to do that for me. I have John Collins. Will the new coach, hopefully Quinn Snyder, help John's outlook? Well, weird stuff in Atlanta. Trae Young missed practice today due to personal reasons. That's a Ew, what am I looking for here? I forgot what I was looking for. Yeah, Trae Young is missing practice for personal reasons, which is kind of weird. Hopefully it means nothing. We know that he seemed to want the coaching change by all accounts. So I think you're going to see a little coaching change bump for the Hawks, even if it's not really Nate McMillan's fault. Maybe some of it is, I'm sure. But everybody will just play a little looser. They'll be like, oh, hey, changing the guard. Everybody gets excited because something's different. And then we'll see what comes after that. I think John will be okay. He got off to a really hot start this year that everybody assumed that was going to be something that stuck, but it very much was not. So my answer, my very long-winded answer to your question is, maybe a little, but John's John, and they have enough guys in front of him in the pecking order there that there's just not a lot left for him to do. Hi, Dan. Do I drop Sohan or Nance to pick up Kevin Love in a 16-teamer? I would not drop Sohan. He's too interesting, and he's kind of part of the future. I don't think Kevin Love plays more than 15 to 20 minutes. He can't defend enough to do more than that. He's just too slow to play him much at power forward these days. So does that mean then that he's just backing up Bam? Because that ain't a big role. So my answer is no, assuming Nance is back. I think he is listed probable last time I saw. So no, JP. Oh, I'm sorry. I said I was going to pronounce everybody's names and I skipped right over them. Yep, Dong. How close did I get? Thoughts on Reddish, G. Yosef? He's going to shoot a bunch here if Portland's missing guys, but that profiles more as a points league, maybe. Category league, nah. G. Yosef, you hammer texted here. Please rank Dylan Wright, D'Anthony Melton, Cam Thomas, Dante DiVincenzo, and Cam Reddish. I'll go DiVincenzo at the top because Steph is out a week or two more. Then I'll go Melton because I still like his fantasy game. I will go DeLon, then Cam, and then Reddish is at the bottom for me. Should I trade my De'Aaron Fox and Gabe Vincent for Freddie Van Vliet? Punt, rebound, and turnover. Yes. Which two to drop in a head-to-head league? Playoffs start this coming Monday. I have OG and Bobby Portis returning. Jabari Smith, Kelly Olynyk, Cam Johnson, Slow-Mo, D'Anthony Melton, Matisse Thybulle are the possible drops. Well, Thybulle is one of them. Unless you are badly attacking defensive stats. He's not going to do anything else. He might get you 3 steals a ball game, but we're talking like 4 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist kind of thing. So it's going to be hard for him to hit value. And if you are in good shape on steals, then you really don't need him. And then the other one is probably Jabari Smith, although with Green and Kevin Porter still out, his usage might be high enough that it kind of counterbalances the bad percentages there. If you don't want to drop Jabari Smith, if you think his usage sees a big bump, then Melton is the next one on the board because I don't think Cat's ready to come back yet. Any updates on Oubre? I hadn't heard one, actually, but I assume he'll be back in the next couple of weeks. Kind of have to just let that one happen when it happens. Another Oubre question. Wow, interesting. Yeah, he will. When he comes back, he'll have value. I mean, the runway's open there. That team is clunky, and McDaniels is gone. I know Hayward's there, but that means there's plenty of shots available. So, yes, when he comes back, but I don't know exactly when that's going to be. I keep forgetting to say the names. This was Wayne T. This was Usman Kamran, and this is Nikki Gogol. Almir Papara or Almir Popara. Dennis Smith Jr., Cole Anthony, or Suggs D. Cole. It's Cole. Oh, for Monday stream. I have to add one today because my injured players are healthy from tomorrow and would be unable to add. For a Monday stream. It's still Cole. I still like Cole Anthony the best of those bunch. G. Yosef, you're back. Should I trade Gary Trent Jr. and Clay for Brandon Ingram? No. I think Clay and Ingram might have similar value the rest of the way, and then Trent makes that paying too much. Any long-term concern with Giannis's wrist, or is it just day-to-day? I mean, it's probably more like week-to-week, so kinda. But I don't think he misses more than another 2 to 3 weeks. Wrist injuries are weird, though. Like, I had a wrist sprain in August or July that didn't really get better until November, so a lot of it is pain tolerance. But Giannis is also a lot younger than me, so I think he'll be back. I think he'll be back by March 6th. Is that a week and a half? I might be wrong on that one. Can we drop Zion if your IL spot is full? Sadly, yes, because he's probably still 3 to 4 weeks out. G. Yosef. Oh, I didn't say David's name because it was just David. Thoughts on Time Lord? I'm disappointed with the lack of blocks. Yeah, I am too. His blocks are weirdly low. I still think they might come around. It feels like it's taken a long time for him to really get his legs underneath him. They probably tick up a little bit. We're not going to get back to where we were last year, but I would assume that he's good to go now. So let's just ride it out. I mean, he's like top 50, top 60 range since he's been fully healthy, which, we wanted more like 30, but we're not going to get it. I didn't draft him anywhere because we knew he was going to be out for a couple of months. I did pick him up off the waiver wire in one spot when he was like 3 weeks from coming back. So I do have him on one team. And obviously, he's good enough to play. Not as good as we wanted, but good enough to play. Monk and 16-teamers. Yeah, I'm okay with that. He's a 16-team play. Is Suggs a pickup in 14 or 16s? No, I don't think so with Cole Anthony back. Thanks, Dan the Man. See you in Discord. Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is Lester Allen Pacheco. I've got to get in the habit of saying the names of the question askers. I feel like you guys probably enjoy having me butcher your names, which, I don't know, maybe you enjoy just hearing the name, but you're going to get it butchered because I'm generally okay at guessing name pronunciations after a decade of reading crazy baseball names, but I ain't going to bat 1,000 on those either. All right, we out tomorrow. Probably me and Brew. We'll see. But we'll be here on YouTube one way or the other. Have a great one today, everybody. Hey, like and subscribe on your way out. There's still 30 some odd of you watching this thing as we peter out here towards the end. Like and subscribe on your way out, and we'll see you mañana.